Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by the beautiful Andrea Anstiss. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk to you. I love the fact that you are both a psychotherapist and you are a holotropic breathwork facilitator, and you are author of a best-selling book. I'd love to hear about your book, hear your story. There it is, Juicy Life. She
Yay, it
understands.
feels like my baby. It feels like my baby, Sarah.
It's so beautiful. I love that. I love that you took all of your experience into creating this book. So please tell me your story. Tell me how this book came to life.
Yeah, sure. I have been living in the Gulf region for about 30 years. I came when I was 29 to Oman. I've always been interested in healing and health and well-being and awakening and expanding and evolving. And so before I'd arrived in Oman, I had studied breathwork in London. I had already done lots of stuff around chakras and, I've been on my own kind of journey towards healing. And then when I was in Oman, I was there for 7 years, gave birth to my two beautiful boys. They're now 31 and 29, so that was quite a long time ago. But I had a really incredible time in Oman, and there I did lots of Reiki. And I also went off and did the Shivananda yoga training. So long before yoga became trendy, I was into it. And then after Oman, we went back and lived in New Zealand for about a year and a half, and it was difficult. It was really tricky to make that transition back to the real world. Then we got invited back again to Dubai, and we were here for 2 years, and then we went to Saudi. So when I was in Saudi, I decided that I wanted to kind of formalize my studies. So there I did a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. And then after Saudi, I was invited, I think around 2004, came back to Dubai, and I was invited to work for the Hoffman process, which is an amazing retreat set up. So I worked in the UK, but I also taught the process in Bahrain, and we taught once or twice in Abu Dhabi as well. So, I kind of have used some of the Hoffman ideas for especially the first 3 chapters of Juicy Life. But after I finished working at the Hoffman process, which was about 2011, I started my own practice of doing lots of one-on-ones with clients. And then I was like, I kind of I want to offer this amazing work to the world. Like, well, I can't just keep this for me and my kind of privileged clients in a way. So it was like, okay, let me do it via a book. That was kind of where I came to. But having said that, I tried to write a few books before I got to Juicy Life. So Juicy Life and the writing process was a huge kind of, that basically took about 20 years, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, you have clearly done so much and accomplished so much in such a difficult space. You've mentioned just so many programs you've been involved in, and the fact that you have like 20 years of experience in something that is so important, and it does touch your physical health as well as your mental health. And I think it's beautiful that you were able to kind of combine all of that and learning so much about yourself in the process. And of course, I mean, kudos and congratulations for writing a best-selling book that will help people so much. I'd love to hear more about the process of developing the book and how the challenges that you faced during that process.
Yeah, I think I started off writing a book really around Arab women and helping them heal trauma. So it was called Light Under the Abaya. So that was the first book that I started writing. And actually, I feel very touched. I had this lovely woman, Lisa Durante, who helped me put that book together. And then I never completed it. It didn't feel like it was the right time to publish it. And that was like a long time ago, maybe 2006. And then we were doing workshops for, so I used to do a lot of workshops for women who had trauma, and men. And then we did also eating disorder stuff. So then with another friend, we did another book around healing your relationship with food and the body. And again, it's still like half done, not complete. We just met up the other day and we're like, we need to finish it. We need to get it done. Even if we leave it as an ebook, it needs to be done. And then I was like, okay, let me do my biography. Let me just write my story, write my process of healing myself, and kind of go from there. But once I'd done that, that was a huge schlep as well. Once I'd done that and gotten all sorts of help from editors and whatnot, I was like, it doesn't feel quite right to put that out. And then I went to this woman called Jo Parfitt, who owns the company that published Juicy Life. And she was like, Andrea, you know, your biography doesn't quite work. But she said, I'm going to do this how-to writing class. So why don't you jump into that? So as soon as I got help and support and joined a writing group with some other amazing women, that was what really made the difference, Sarah. So I kind of, you know, it's like I want to encourage would-be writers to do that, to not kind of think for years and years, I can do this on my own just because I know all the stuff and I want to share it. It's really important to have that help and that accountability and that container and that feedback from other women as well, from readers. So, you know, we worked together, and I think it basically took about 3 years to write Juicy Life. But Juicy Life is really an amazing structure for people to work through all their tricky traits. So all of that emotional inheritance that is covering our light and kind of covering our freedom and creating those blocks and barriers, this is a way of working through them. So the first chapter describes what tricky traits are all about. And then the second chapter, we look at all the stuff we inherited from mum. The third chapter is all around dad, what we took on there. The fourth chapter is all about the ancestral inheritance. Yeah. So, you know, we don't want to just stop at, oh yeah, we got this from mum, we got this from dad, and kind of stay in that blame towards them. We want to go beyond that and kind of understand how did they become the way they became, and also what am I carrying from past generations. So that kind of delves a bit into family constellations, chapter 4. And then we keep going. So it's like a kind of a forensic spotting of the traits or the patterns. So then we go into trauma, because not everyone's trauma happened in their family. Sometimes it's outside of the family, at school or wherever. So we look at those traits that you might have taken on from, you know, whatever your trauma may have been. And there's lots of people, of course, in this region who came from really war-torn kind of countries. So so that's around the trauma piece. We look at boundaries, and eventually chapter 8, it's like you come out into the light. It's like you're done, you're cooked at that point. So there's a lot of journaling, there's a lot of suggestions for processes, there's connections through to meditations that you can do as well to support the process. So that's Juicy Life in a nutshell.
That is a beautiful nutshell. I think that you just summarized it in the best way possible. I think that gives the listeners a very good idea of what it's like without giving too much away. I like the fact that you're tackling trauma amongst women and men, and that we're remembering that, you know, men don't necessarily need to follow the kind of stereotype of, like, you know, showing feelings as weakness. So I love the fact that you've considered a wider audience for this. I also love the fact that you've considered multiple types of trauma, and it's not just family trauma. It's not just, you know, one or two different types of areas. I love the fact that you've included, there's just so much inclusivity in what you've just said. And it really does touch on, it gives us such a safe space for people to not only address the trauma, but a way to handle it, which I love. Now, the way that you're talking about this book, it really sounds like it's something that you wrote from the heart. And I'd love to hear, just out of curiosity, what was your favorite thing about writing this book and bringing this community together?
Oh, that's so cool. That's such a great question. You know, honestly, I feel like my favorite thing is now, now the birthing process and the celebration process. And I think it's because, you know, my work is kind of hidden in a way. It's like, I have these beautiful friends. I'm part of a tennis community, but because I'm a psychotherapist, it's like the work I do is a lot of one-on-one stuff on Zoom or in the room. And it's like, because of the confidentiality piece, it's very hidden. So I can't, it's not so easy to go out there and share what I'm doing all the time, as other people do with their jobs. So it's kind of like, oh, I can kind of, I can show myself to others, and this is who I am. This is what I do, and this may or may not be able to help you. You know, I don't want to kind of shove it down people's throats, but it's like, yeah, it's like a real birthing process. So yeah, it's amazing in that way. So it's more about, I think now it's about the celebration. And it's funny, I'm thinking about it as birthing because the other woman in the group wrote a book on what's it called? A global celebration of breastfeeding. So she wrote this amazing book on breastfeeding. So I guess going back to the writing process, it was probably that real team effort. There were 4 women writing and one teacher. So that was just so yeah, that was really profound. That female support, that women supporting women to get through. And Jo, our teacher, that was the cool thing about Jo, is that she's a writer and a publisher, because it's easy to kind of learn from writers, but you really, if you want to produce a book, you need to be working closely with a publisher who knows, you know, what it takes to get to that level of a book that's worthy of publishing. Because I feel like there's lots of kind of writers, editors that will happily kind of go along with it, but you need, you know, you need a hardcore publisher at the end of the day, or somebody who knows about publishing. So yeah, she was excellent and her team was excellent. So I feel really grateful for them.
That is so beautiful. I love that you just said women supporting women. That is like my favorite hashtag on Instagram. That is my favorite story type. That is my favorite thing to talk about. And it's so wonderful that you were able to bring out the best of each other and come together and just do something so beautiful. And I know that it's coming together as a community is it creates things and is the ripple effect for so much that we don't even realize. Like, women listening to this episode will think, wow, I can, you know, meet up with a writer, meet up with an editor, a publisher, somebody who understands my story. I have something I want to share. I want to publish a book too. So I think it's so inspiring that people have seen, like, now that I've seen someone do it and be so successful at it, I can do it too. And that brings me to my final question for you today, Andrea. I feel like you are such an inspiring role model for people being true to themselves and addressing their issues and understanding that there is something positive that can come out of that. What would you say is one word of advice that you want to leave with the listeners today?
You know, do your work on yourself when you're ready. You know, you can buy Juicy Life, you can dive into whatever workshop, Hoffman process, Path of Love. There's this one around sexuality, ISTA, that lots of people are doing at the moment. Like, dive into a workshop and do it. Come to my breathwork next Saturday, the 24th. You know, because there's like that talk therapy, but the beauty of breathwork is like letting everything come up and out. So you know, just dive in, be courageous, go do your clearing work when you're ready. That is what's going to contribute to world peace more than anything else, more than, I think, kind of acting out there in the world. Start with yourself, start with creating that spaciousness inside yourself, I think, Sarah. And I think, and the other thing I would say is, don't, you know, sometimes we get so excited about this work, don't go around giving everybody else advice. Only give people advice if they're asking for it or paying for it. I see like some people getting so enthusiastic that have had coaching or just starting on this path, and it's like, it's a bit much sometimes.
No, that's actually a very valid point, and I'm glad that you said that. It's all about channeling your energy in the right places where it's most used, and not just kind of preaching everywhere, making sure that you have the right audience in mind. So I do love that. And just so that my listeners can understand, Where can they buy your book, and how often do you have breathwork classes?
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon. So, and hopefully soon with some chatting to some of the local bookshops. Hopefully it'll be in Magrudy's and Borders and some bookshops like that soon. You can also get a copy from me, but Amazon would be the easiest way. And around the breath work, normally we do the 1 day breathwork workshop 3 times a year. So we've got one coming up next Saturday, the 24th, but we also do some mini evenings. So I work with a lovely woman, Nadia Dean, and we do some evenings, which are shorter breathworks as well. So, and we do them like every couple of months. So yeah.
Lovely.
And also, inshallah, towards the end of the year, I'm going to be teaching some breathwork facilitators, a process called Hawa breathwork. So people that want to learn to facilitate breathwork. So that's people who are already coaches, who already have some skills working with people. And Hawa is an Arabic word, which means basically like riding that breath back home, like that, taking that breath back to yourself, which I think is really beautiful.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your time today. It's been phenomenal speaking to you, and I'm so inspired. I'm definitely going to read your book, and I encourage all my listeners to as well. And thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It was such a lovely connection. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Bye.